What's up, Ram fam diddly doodly schmoogly doodlers? It's me, ya boy, Alex the Rambler, back from a little break. I finally got the motivation to play Hearts of Iron 4 again. Just kidding, it's just a top 5 video. But that's right, if you haven't seen, I decided to take a break for a few days to hopefully help with my burnout. So I'm easing myself back in gently with a top 5 Hearts of Iron 4 video. I'm basically turning into Watch Mojo. So if you'd like to see more top 5 Watch Mojos, leave a like and comment with another top 5 idea. But today I'll be going over my top 5 easiest starting nations on Hearts of Iron 4. So there aren't too many set criterias, obviously factory counts, manpower, and just kind of ease of if you're new to the game. I'll try and go over my top 5 and hopefully you'll agree. And if you don't, I mean, I guess that's fine, isn't it? No one usually agrees with me, so. Okay, so here we go. In at number 5, it's the Soviet Union. You start off with a decent number of factories, particularly civilian factories, and you actually start the game with more military factories than, I believe, Germany. Yeah, you start with more than Germany. Of course, their industry does build up a lot quicker than yours. You do also have to worry about doing the Great Purge, otherwise you'll enter into a civil war, but that's pretty easy to do. Now, although the Great Purge gives you a huge amount of penalties, you should be able to finish those off before Germany decides to attack you. You also start off with a huge military. You start off with 1.1 million men, and you have a pretty much unlimited manpower pool. You can just keep recruiting divisions. And if you play it smart, you'll also annex the few nations, the Baltic nations here. And that'll give you access to what's called the Stalin line, especially in multiplayer. It's very important. In single player, it's also very important too. You see, you get a huge penalty if you try and attack across a river. So if you build up your forts in the two little provinces here that are on the large river line, and build up forts and a huge military defense all the way along here, you'll just be able to grind down the German military machine without losing. And after that, you can probably steamroll the entirety of Europe. And because your war support starts off extremely high, you can go to war economy straight away, which reduces your consumer goods factories. So that's incredibly good for building more civilian factories. Now, I would recommend you build civilian factories all the way into about 1939, because again, Germany shouldn't attack you until about 1941, so you'll have time to build up your industry a huge amount. So that would be my 5th most easiest starting nation. Number 4 would be the United Kingdom. You start off with one of, if not the most powerful navy in the entire game, including multiple aircraft carriers, and you obviously have an island. So it's incredibly difficult for a nation such as Germany to naval invade you. They'll only be able to naval invade you if you don't keep control of your naval regions here, here, and here. And if for some reason you don't do that, then you really need to. Please. The starting army is okay, but you do also have the fact that you have the Empire to rely upon. So you can get various manpower pools from all of your colonies, essentially. Canada, South Africa, the Raj. You've also got British Malaya, and Australia and New Zealand to call upon. You also have several years to build up. You can't really do much in the opening years of the war except prepare, and that's incredibly good for beginners, in my opinion. Although you do have a lot to manage, I'd say it's definitely more manageable than a nation such as France. I'd say France is a difficult start compared to the United Kingdom. Now, you could, as the United Kingdom, try to save France, but do you really want to do that? Do you really? It does have a pretty powerful focus tree. Lots of different options to go down. And yeah, that's my number 4, really. The United Kingdom is definitely a solid nation to start as once you have the basics down. This advice is kind of you're expected to have been playing the game for, I'd say, like at least 10 to 15 hours. Okay, in at number 3 we have Japan, led by Mr. Hirohito. Now, although Japan doesn't have too many factories to begin with, the only real task that you have for the first 5 years in-game is to defeat China. And you already start with a military that can pretty much achieve that I would also recommend making sure that you have a fair number of Marines and equipped divisions. The Chinese AI should fall apart against you, but I'd say it's a very good training ground. So if you're not that confident in Hearts of Iron 4, play it as Japan. You'll have a really good time, hopefully. And China should be a weaker opponent than your nation. China doesn't start with an air force, whereas you do. China doesn't really have much of an industry or the ability to have a massive industry, whereas you do. And as you capture factories, then your industry will expand. You have a huge amount of manpower. Your stability and war support is incredibly high from the off. And your focus tree is also a really good one with various options and a lot of flexibility. Plus, you get to have Mr. Hirohito, who gives plus 60% for just being the Emperor. Damn! Right, in at number 2 we have the United States of America. Now, the United States has a massive industry to call upon from the start, although you do admittedly have the Great Depression, which is bad, combined with undisturbed isolation and disarmed nation. You're not going to be a military power in the first few years of the game, which, if you're new, is fine. The United States is very safe from invasion. Once World War II starts, you can really start to pick up and start to expand your military and your industry. It does have a boring start to the game, I'd say. However, you do also have probably the second most powerful navy in the game to begin with. Huge amounts of battleships and aircraft carriers. A focus tree that doesn't really give you a lot of flexibility on how to play the game, but will help you out as the war goes on. And it gives you the opportunity to really try new strategies. Your allies, the UK, should survive. So you've got a staging base for which to send your forces to take out, hopefully, the German Reich. And you've also got lots of islands to do some island hopping. It is very micro-intensive, I'd say, the United States. But overall, it's an incredibly easy nation to start off with if you're just getting to grips with the game. And if you really want to, you can just invade Mexico. Because, well, no one's going to stop you, really. Canada's not going to be in a position to. You can take over Canada too. And then Cuba. And then Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil! Yeah, if your dream is to create a United States empire, then it's quite easy to do that. So, number 1 in my easiest starting nations is actually the German Reich. Now, I know what you're thinking. You absolute mad lad. It's difficult. To start off with, it's not. You have a decent amount of starting factories. You have a very, very nice focus tree. You can get a couple of nations for free, essentially, especially if you're playing on historical. They're going to give you all of Austria, all of Czechoslovakia. You're going to get Eastern claims. And if you can't defeat Poland, then you shouldn't be playing the game. You start off with 4 research slots, which is powerful, with the opportunity to easily get a 5th one. You start off on partial mobilisation, and you can pretty much go and get war support. I'd say 50% war support by about 1937 or 8. It's quite easy to do. You have the ability to build a lot of civilian factories and then military factories, and once you gain the additional factories from Austria and Czechoslovakia, your industry just starts taking over any other nation in the game. You can get some really decent generals and political advisors. Within 4 focuses, you can give yourself 12 extra civilian factories. It really is a very easy nation to start off with. You can easily get a very decent air force and army. All you really need to do then is to focus on garrisoning your ports. If you don't want to, don't ally with Mussolini. He'll probably just be a hindrance to you. Sorry, mate. Your starting army is small, but they're all 100% equipped, and they are all regulars. As long as you hold the West Wall, holding France at bay is going to be incredibly easy while you take out Poland. And you do have the opportunity, if you want to build up your navy in order to make it large enough to maybe try a sea line, or build up your air force enough just to, well, power drop in and invade the United Kingdom that way. Taking France should be relatively easy. As soon as you break the Benelux, you can just storm in there. Your industry will get huge. Now, I know it's probably a fairly intensive country to play as when you want to start to go up to nations such as the USSR, but for starting nations, you're gonna have a good fun time as Germany. Don't at me if you disagree, okay? I didn't really include any nations in South America, although they pretty much all have decent... They're not difficult to start as. However, the USA will guarantee and get involved in any wars, so if you want to try and create an empire as Brazil, you're going to have a problem with the USA sticking its nose in. I was going to include Romania in the list. They do have a lot of flexibility of either going with the Soviets or with the Germans. However, you do start off with King Carol II's lifestyle, which is a big hindrance early on in the game. Italy, I would say, is a difficult start, just because your industry is pretty trash, and your army's pretty trash, and so's your navy. So you're going to have trouble if you play as Italy. Hopefully you found this list helpful if you're new to the game. Of course, feel free to name your top 5 easiest starting nations in the comments below. And if you've got any ideas for any future top 5 videos, of course, leave a comment too. So this is me coming back from my hiatus. I'm just coming in gently. Top 5 videos are fairly low-key and easy for me to do. So please do leave a like if you want more content on the channel. And I'll be back with another video very soon. Toodle pip! Many thanks to Wyatt, Papa Stalin of the Paintbrushes, Aidan, Andrew, Clinshaw, Jiggly Crotch, Brock Obama, I Am a Living Legend, Hunter of Griefers, Martin, Red, Logan and Sam for being ridiculous Rambler supporters on Patreon, and many thanks to all the other patrons too!